You know, when we think about energy, our minds probably jump straight to our monthly bill, right? We see it as a commodity, something we buy and sell, but it's so much more than that. It's literally the lifeblood of our civilization. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden and, frankly, deeply unequal systems that control this vital current, and how that control really shapes almost every part of our lives. It all kicks off with a question that, I'm sure, feels pretty familiar. You open your energy bill, you see that number, and you just feel that little pang of frustration. But what if I told you that number is just the tip of the iceberg? That the real cost is way bigger and way more hidden? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unmask right now. The true price of power. All right, so let's dive right into our first section, the triple bill. This is the core idea that for every single bill you see and pay, you're actually paying for energy 2 other times, in ways you might not even realize. So check this out. This is how that hidden burden really breaks down. First, you've got the direct payment. That's your monthly bill. Simple enough, we all get that. But then comes the indirect cost. Part of your taxes go to subsidize massive corporations, who, by the way, often pay way less per unit of energy than you do. And finally, there's the technological cost, this massive invisible energy drain from our digital world. Think data centers, streaming services, AI, the very things that run modern life. So when you stack all three of those layers on top of each other, you get what the source material calls the energy paradox. It's this fundamental contradiction sitting right at the heart of our system, where the costs and the consumption are just completely out of whack. And wow, this slide just lays that paradox out so clearly, doesn't it? On one side, you have us, the consumer. We're told to turn off the lights, save every watt we can, and we end up paying the most. But on the other side, you have the biggest users. We're talking server farms the size of cities, massive industrial giants, who benefit the most from the system and end up paying the least. It's a structural problem, not an individual one. And that, of course, brings us right to our next section. We've been talking about the cost of energy, but now we need to talk about control. Because this whole paradox, well, it's not some accident. It's a feature, not a bug, of a system that's been designed around centralized power. And this quote just cuts right to the heart of it. The real goal of the system we have isn't just about making a profit. It's about maintaining dependency. When a few central players, whether it's governments or corporations, hold the keys to the energy supply, they basically hold the keys to everything else. And one of the main ways this dependency is maintained is by controlling innovation. I mean, throughout history, we have seen some mind-blowing breakthroughs. Fusion energy, photonic systems, you name it. So the big question is, why aren't they powering our homes? Well, as you can see here, these brilliant ideas often get stuck. They get trapped in patents, locked away in corporate labs, or filed away in military programs. The potential is right there, but it stays just out of reach. So this is the really crucial takeaway here. The roadblock to a future of abundant, clean energy. It isn't a failure of science. It's not like we're breaking the laws of physics. The roadblock is a failure of our economic and power structures, which are actively designed to protect the way things are now and dam up the flow of real innovation. This brings us to the deepest layer of our whole investigation. See, the control of energy is really just a symptom. The root cause is the control of something even more fundamental than that, the control of knowledge about energy. And here it is. This is the key that could unlock everything. If we want energy to flow freely, then information and knowledge have to flow freely first. Transparency isn't just some nice-to-have feature, it's the absolute foundation for any real, meaningful change. The source material points to this as the core conceptual mistake of our time. We treat knowledge like it's a possession, a commodity to be owned, patented, and hoarded. But knowledge isn't a static object. It's a dynamic current. By treating it like property, we're basically building dams that stop the flow of progress and really hold back society. Okay, now this is where technology comes roaring back into the story, but in a very, very different way. We're talking about AI. And it represents a critical turning point for humanity. It can either become a tool that reinforces this old, broken system, or it could be the one thing that shatters it completely. And this slide just lays out the two paths ahead perfectly. We're at a crossroads. AI can be forged into a weapon, used to deepen control, to spread misinformation, and to manipulate people. Or it can become a mirror, a tool for radical transparency that reflects the truth of our systems right back at us, simulating consequences and exposing all the hidden agendas. The choice really is about how we decide to build and use it. So what could this mirror AI actually do? I mean, just imagine this for a second. Picture real-time transparency into global supply chains. Think about simulations that could show us exactly how conflicts start over resources, and more importantly, how we could avoid them. It could act as a universal translator, not just for languages, but for cultural nuance, bridging these huge divides. And it could be the ultimate educational tool, empowering citizens everywhere. This completely reframes the whole conversation we're having about AI. We are so focused on its competitive, strategic power. But its ultimate promise isn't about creating a better weapon to win a fight. It's about creating such a profound level of shared understanding that the fight becomes unnecessary in the first place. So let's bring all these different threads together in our final section, the flow of freedom. After digging into all these paradoxes of energy, power, and knowledge, we arrive at a conclusion that isn't really about technology at all. It's about us. At the end of the day, the next big battery or the smartest new algorithm isn't the final answer. Technology like AI can be an incredibly powerful bridge, an amazing tool to help us see the system clearly for what it is. But the fundamental shift we need, it's not external, it's internal. It's a change in human consciousness. So what does that transition actually look like? Well, it's pretty much a three-step journey. First, it's about moving from a place of confusion and misunderstanding about how our world really works to a place of genuine insight. Second, it's shifting from being dependent on these huge, centralized systems to reclaiming our own autonomy. And finally, it's about evolving from a society that values raw power above all else to one that truly pursues wisdom. And this is just the beautiful synthesis of the whole argument. The two are inseparable. You really cannot have one without the other. Freeing the flow of knowledge is the act that unleashes the flow of every other kind of freedom, whether that's energy, creativity, or our own self-determination. And so we end by turning this huge global idea back into a personal reflection for you. Just think about your own life for a minute. Your work, your community. Do you treat the knowledge you have as something to be guarded and owned? Or do you see it as a current, as something that gains its true power when it circulates, when it's shared, when it connects? The answer to that question might just be the starting point for everything else.